Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Star Trek Deep Space Nine review show. Podcast title coming soon. The title craftsmen are hard at work. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
Hi, I'm Data.
Today we're going to recap, rate, and discuss Season 1, Episode 5, Babel. Alternate title, The Bajor Strain. See, I actually came up with the title that time.
Good job. Yeah, I was trying to think of one before we started, and my best I was like COVID Bajor. Yours is better.
Yeah. Good effort though. There will be full spoilers through this episode since we both have seen the whole series. Possible accidental minor spoilers for later in the show, but we will try not to do that. This episode originally aired January 24th, 1993.
That was a long time ago. I was 8. Or 7.
Yeah. I was like, when's your birthday?
July 85.
Yep. One of these episodes was recorded on your birthday, but we'll never tell which one. Let's see. Okay, so recapping this episode. Chief O'Brien is having a very busy day. He works tirelessly to help some people trapped in an airlock, while some guy named Captain Jahil complains about his ship not being fixed. The chief is called to Dax's lab to get rid of a weird noise. Then up in Ops, he fixes a computer problem for Kira, only to be reminded by Captain Sisko when he's done with that he still has to fix the replicators. And fix the replicators he does, but as he drinks his victory coffee, the camera pans over into the inner workings of the replicator to reveal a mysterious device hidden within. And it starts blinking. Bum, bum, bum. At Quark's bar, Odo observes, delightedly, that business seems rather slow. Even Morn is nowhere to be found. Quark blames it on the malfunctioning replicators. The lone customer complains about his soup and tries to make Quark eat it. Because after all, you served it, you eat it.
Yeah, that's the way that works.
But Odo tosses him out.
I like the implication. He's like, you tasted this? Here, taste it. And I'm like, yeah, he made some soup for you, and then like in the replicator, and then tasted it before he brought it over to you. And he's like, here, you use the same spoon.
Yeah, I don't know. Is that how restaurants work? Do they taste the food before serving it to you?
I imagine if you were in a restaurant that was making a soup, and it's like, a giant pot of soup because you're making it for lots of potential customers, chef probably tastes that. But if it's a single serving of some sort of meal, probably they're not going to taste your plate before sending it out to you.
Yep. I don't know. Have we ever? Is this a character we ever see again? Or
not that I know of.
He looks kind of familiar, but seems like kind of a waste of makeup if we don't make him another regular. But
this whole opening section has lots of issues for me. For one thing, like when Dax calls him to fix the noise, I'm like, Dax, you are the science officer of this station. How can you not diagnose and fix a simple problem yourself?
Yeah, I mean, do you not understand? It's like there are people literally trapped in an airlock. Maybe just like live with the noise for a little while.
And then I think the most egregious thing is Sisko knows that the replicators were broken. And he's like, oh, I guess we'll see if they're fixed now. And he goes over and orders a drink and drinks it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh no, this is bad. Who knows what it ended up tasting like. But I was like, wait a second. So, broken replicators, you make a drink and just go ahead and down some of that. Like, it could be sulfuric acid if the replicators are broken. Like, you should confirm before imbibing.
It's like he doesn't sniff it. He doesn't like put his finger in it. I think he kind of assumed that the replicators were fixed, or he just forgot they were broken until he tasted whatever that was.
If they're broken, there should be a sign or something also for that exact same reason. Yeah, it's like, or maybe the replicator made the coffee but made it at 5,000 degrees and it like scalds his face off when he looks into it. I mean, just
Yeah, totally. I feel like they're just I don't know. They're so understaffed. The guy that makes the out of order signs is too busy or something like that, or there's just not enough out of order signs to go on all the stuff in the station.
I feel like replicator break is something that happens kind of frequently in the series, and I just imagine being the first guy after the replicator breaks that, you know, they bring you your food or whatever, and you know, it corks, and it's like, wait, this is like motor oil. What do you? Can't be good. But then my final note on this opening section is, it's like, why is it that O'Brien has to do everything himself? Like, we see he has two guys helping work on the door or whatever, but apparently, like, he has to give them ideas, like, hey, try this or that. And after that, every single thing that goes wrong, he has to personally take care of. Does he not have, like, people to help out?
His staff seems a little lacking in quantity and quality. Like, I'm not even sure if those two guys work for O'Brien, or if they were just two, like, guys he grabbed to help with that problem.
Oh, yeah. I guess he could just be grabbing some random... Yeah, I don't know.
He needs a better staff. That's 100%. Like,
he's the chief of operations, which I guess is kind of like Data, the operations officer on the Enterprise, even though the name is a little bit different. Like, so... I feel like, you know, you should have plenty of people you can delegate stuff to. Data's not down fixing all the replicators whenever they go down. But, I don't know. It's possible, like, Orion's never been in charge of, like, you know, a team before that we've seen. So maybe he just hasn't gotten the hang of delegating yet.
Yeah, and, you know, the Federation presence on the station is still pretty new, so you know, maybe they're still ironing out all the organizational things. Who knows?
But I'm like, also that Jahil guy's a dick, and I'm just like, okay, if you're so eager, like, warp one yourself somewhere else and have the, like, go to Bajor. I bet somebody at Bajor can fix your ship.
Yeah, is this like the only place, like, you can get your ship fixed? I don't know. Anyway, let's see. Odo tosses out the unruly customer. Odo leaves, and Quark gets to work coming up with a sneaky solution to his replicator problem.
Oh, Quark.
Yep. And we see he has a big... what are those rods called they use? They're not isolinear rods, are they?
I don't... Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to look, because...
The Cardassians use a different technology than isolinear chips. Right?
They are called isolinear rods, apparently.
Oh, okay. So instead of isolinear chips, they're isolinear rods.
Yep.
That's just some nerdy. We got to get our details right. Back in ops, exhaustion is taking its toll on O'Brien as he gives Sisko an update. He briefly says something nonsensical, but nobody makes much of it. However, later, when he's assisting Kira, he begins speaking nothing but gibberish. He's taken to Bashir, who diagnoses him with aphasia, and soon identifies the cause as a virus. Soon other people on the station begin to fall victim, including Jake. Sisko puts the station under quarantine.
I don't know if that aphasia actually works, you know, the way that it's depicted here.
Well,
but I
mean, it's Star Trek, so...
Yeah, well, but I do have to say, I feel like Colum Meaney does an excellent job of making the nonsense words flow in, like, you know, a normal way, like that he thinks that this is normal. I don't know that any of the other actors manage it quite as well as he does, so I was impressed.
He's saying, like, actual words also, and he's saying them in a really weird order, but yeah, like in a really fluent way where he's convinced he's saying something rational.
Like, and his tone or the way he says stuff, you're like understanding the gist of, like, the sort of thing he's trying to communicate, kind of based on tone and like when he starts getting frustrated and stuff. But it's all like, I feel like it must be really hard to have memorized these words and you're stringing them together, like words that don't normally go together in this way. And I feel like you see that in some of the other acting that the other people do, where as they're talking this nonsense, it's kind of stilted, like they're like, but I feel like he does a really good job.
I swear Jake Sisko is just saying a bunch of random syllables. He's not even, like, reciting any words. Which, that must have been difficult in the writer's room, too, to be like, what are some nonsense words that he can say?
Yeah, I wonder how they did that. I wonder if they actually scripted out every word, or if they're like, just throw words in there.
Maybe they had like a fun day of it where they just like had some dictionaries and they were randomly flipping to random pages or something. That would have been fun. Odo pays another visit to Quark's and this time finds it bustling. Even Angry Soup Man is pleased.
And he has the same soup from before.
Yep, and he finds it excellent now. So, like, I guess credit to this guy, like, he expects quality, but he gives credit when credit is due. So, even though Quark himself has very little to do with making the stew, he just asks the replicator for the stew.
Right.
Anyway, this makes Odo very suspicious, especially when Quark says that Rom fixed the replicators. Quark sneaks away with a rolly cart to use the replicators on another deck. When surprised, the cart transforms into Odo. Odo scolds Quark and escorts him out of the restricted area.
Yep. It was, he's like, how'd you know? You said Rom fixed the replicator. Rom's an idiot. He couldn't fix, I forget what metaphor he uses.
It was like he couldn't unbend a straw or...
Oh, yeah.
He couldn't fix a straw, or something. Yeah, something like that. So, we're now introducing the characteristic of Rom, that he's an idiot.
Yep, and he's called Quark's assistant. Like, Quark's like, my assistant Rom fixed it.
Yeah, so I think that's why I've always been so confused about these early episodes, because we established that Rom is Nog's dad.
Yep.
And the only thing I can think is that the writers forgot that they had established Nog as Quark's nephew in the first episode. Either that, or... Because, I mean, Quark even says he should fire Rom.
Yeah, he's like, he is an idiot. I should get rid of him.
Or maybe he's just trying to keep the familial relationship secret from Odo, but, I mean, it seems like everybody should know that. So, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes with this whole Quark-Rom-Nog stuff. Oh yeah, and this also... Okay, this introduces that Rom is an idiot.
Yep.
Except later, we learn that Rom is an idiot, except when fixing stuff. So...
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Odo doesn't know that part yet. Like, Quark's the only one who knows the secret of Rom's fixing ability.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, I guess Odo doesn't, like, watch Rom. And fixing stuff doesn't seem to be Rom's job yet.
Right.
Or something. Maybe after this, Quark puts Rom to work fixing the replicators, and Rom fixes the replicators. And that's the beginning of Rom the Handyman. I don't know. Dr. Bashir soon deduces that the virus must be coming from the station's food, which leads to the discovery of the mysterious device. First thought to be Cardassian in origin, Bashir analyzes the virus and discovers that it was engineered by Bajorans. Probably by Terra. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, and I like that Bashir knows right away this isn't a Cardassian virus. He studied Cardassian viruses. He looks at a nucleotide or something. He's like, oh, this is Bajoran. It was probably planted by terrorists when the station was first built 18 years ago. I mean, I just feel like there's so many Bajoran terrorists in these early episodes. The Bajorans come off as a very terroristic people.
You're not wrong.
It's like we're told how, like, peaceful and spiritual they are. It's like every episode we meet a new Bajoran terrorist. So it's like,
I feel like we haven't seen a whole lot of their spiritualness yet. I mean, we saw some of it, like with the Kai in the first episode, and Kira tells us, oh, our religion is what like kept us together or whatever. But other than that, I don't think we've really seen.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we met the weird, like, ear-rubbing lady, and that was about it. She seemed kind of peaceful, I guess. So Kira reaches out to her contacts and digs through old records and learns the virus was probably engineered by a guy named Deacon Elig. who is now dead, unfortunately. But his assistant, Surmak Rin, survives. She calls Surmak, who initially acts ignorant of any aphasia virus. He's like, aphasia virus? I don't know anything about that. What terrorist plot? Goodbye. So we know he's probably involved somehow. Soon, the only people unaffected by the virus are Cisco, Kira, Odo, and Quark. Kira takes a runabout to Bajor to kidnap Surmak Ren, leaving Cisco in command and ops, and Odo doing every other job.
I really wonder if Odo, they don't mention anything about it, but I'm like, can he even be affected by this virus?
Yeah, that's one thing I kept thinking of the whole episode, because Odo doesn't have a brain, right? So I just assume like he can't, because he doesn't have like neurons and synapses and stuff, I don't think.
As far as we know, unless he like makes them when he's in this I don't know.
Yeah, so I don't think he can be affected by the virus. He's not affected by the virus in the show. I think the show pretty much takes it for granted that we will understand he can't be affected by it. So, but it did remind me of so many episodes of Next Generation where they would encounter like a virus or some weird psychic field or something. And it was always, we either have to establish why Data is also affected by this, or we have to incapacitate Data in some way, or else he would immediately solve the problem. Or we have to give Data something to do. So that, I feel like that's kind of a problem they probably have to address a lot during this show. It's like, oh wait, what about Odo? Although Odo's at least a living thing. So.
Yeah, I was about to say, he's organic, so maybe you can get away with being like, and it affects Odo.
Yeah. I just remember there's this one... I don't remember what it was, but like, the whole crew was affected by something, and they were like, what if we do a big electric field or something like that? And they're like, well, will that cure Data? And Geordi is standing there, he's like, well, it would definitely overload his neural net. Yeah, it'll work on Data too. And I was just like, that's one of the laziest lines I ever saw in Star Trek. Where it's like 1 minute of technobabble, and then Geordi just decides it'll work on Data too, and let's move on with the plot.
I'm trying to think of what that would have been. I mean, like what is it? It's like the second or third episode or something where they get that virus from the original series that makes them all like sexy and stuff.
Yeah, they get the naked time virus.
Yeah. But I don't know if that was... I mean, Data is affected by that, which doesn't make any sense, and he shouldn't be. But...
It's definitely not that one. There's a different one I'm thinking of. Oh, I think it's the one where they get possessed by...
Oh, yeah! I know what you're...
Like
Yep, because, Data is one of the people who gets possessed by alien ghosts or whatever. And
then,
they come up with a plan, to like, they have to get everybody in a circle to shoot them with the big thing.
Yeah, that's right. The only way to get rid of them is to, like, put them in extreme pain. But, like, Data doesn't feel pain, so it's like... Geordi's like, it'll work on Data too. Whatever. Cisco, who had seemed unaffected up to this point, suddenly develops every symptom of the virus at once and passes out, leaving Odo alone to handle a crisis caused by Captain Jahil trying to escape the station. Luckily, Quark shows up, and the two of them are able to rescue Jahil and avert a disaster. So yeah, we get the final climax of Jahil being an idiot.
Yep.
He's like, well, if you don't let me go, I'm just going to, like, blow up my own ship, trying to escape. And then Cisco comes up with a plan. He's like, just let him go and then catch him with a tractor beam, and we'll deal with him later. But that's when Cisco passes out.
And then they can't let him go, because stuff is stuck or whatever.
Yeah, I got kind of lost with what was supposed to be happening in a lot of that, because they had to beam Odo in.
Yep.
They couldn't beam Jahil out, I guess. They had to beam Odo in, and then Odo had to physically drag Jahil to the airlock.
Well, Odo had to like do a thing to make eject the ship or whatever manually.
Yeah, he had to pull off a panel and like pull down a lever or something.
Yeah, because like I guess like the docking clamps got bent from Jahil forcefully pulling against him with his ship, and then they couldn't release the docking clamps, so that he had to go down there and do it manually, or I don't know.
Yeah. Whatever, it all works out at the end. Nobody dies this whole episode.
Yay.
Even people who have the virus, making me wonder if the virus was really even deadly.
Well, I mean, after O'Brien got like a fever or something out of nowhere, they were all very surprised by that. Then Bashir seemed to think that it was going to kill people. So
it was like, they go down and they've made this makeshift like infirmary or something. And all the aphasia people are like laying in bed and like, they look, it looks like after a Civil War battle or something, like everybody's like moaning in pain, and I don't know. It seems like there had already been other symptoms being experienced, but then suddenly Chief O'Brien gets a fever, and they're like, "Oh no!" So I mean, it's never established if this virus was deadly. I guess we have to assume it was, because then the stakes aren't that high. They could just, like, wait around forever for a cure. Like, Starfleet Medical could, come and spend all the time they wanted, like, coming up with a good cure, so. Anyway, so Kira kidnaps Dr. Cermak, exposing him to the virus, and brings him back to Deep Space Nine to come up with a cure, which he is able to do with the help of Bashir's notes.
Yep. Did you take a look at Bashir's notes when they pop up on the screen?
I did not look at them. Do they say something interesting?
There's one bit in there that was funny to me, because it's like let me see. I got it. So it says it's a timeline of him like looking into different things, and it's like, tissue sample from affected patient examined, blah blah blah. And then a couple hours later, there's a note that's like, contacted Chief O'Brien to request environmental engineering data for the last 24 hours to correlate such and such. Like, he's trying to look into the environmental systems to see if there's a relation between how it's spreading or whatever. And I'm like, well, since Chief O'Brien was the first person to get the aphasia, I really doubt that's going to be effective.
That's a good point. Like, it's like, why are you asking Chief O'Brien is totally useless by the time you're studying the virus. But whatever, I'm sure it was like just some, art department guy.
Right.
Throwing this together. I did like that it's like Dr. Cermak shows up at the computer and he turns it on and he's like, oh good, your doctor was already working on a cure.
Yeah, as opposed to, like, he was just like, nah, it's fine.
He was like, oh yeah, let's just continue looking in this direction. It kind of leaves me to believe that Bashir mostly solved the problem himself.
Could be.
And then Dr. Cermak was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is a good cure. Let's try this. Anyway, soon life on the station returns to normal. We close with Sisko taking a coffee from the replicator, like in the first scene, tasting it, and yelling for Chief O'Brien. The end. Da-da-da-da-da. So I really don't have like too many like points to go into for this episode. One thing I was kind of wondering about is the because this feels like a really cliched thing, especially from the 90s, when we had movies like Outbreak and Andromeda Strain was from the 70s. But I was just wondering, like, was this inspired by anything? I looked it up, like, Outbreak came out after this episode, so... It just seemed... Maybe it does feel a little Andromeda Strainy, though. That's why I called it, like, the Bajor Strain.
So, according to the wiki, it says that this is a premise that they got together to, like, a 5-day brainstorming session for episodes for season 1 of Deep Space Nine. And this is a premise that they'd already had for more than 5 years at The Next Generation, written by the same person who wrote the episode Hollow Pursuits. And so it'd been just something that they were kicking around for a long time and never managed to get in there. Huh. Which makes sense to me, because I was gonna say this is one of the most, like, Star Trek-y episodes that we've had so far, in my opinion. Like this feels like a Next Generation episode.
Yeah, it definitely does. Like, it's very minimal on the politics, very maximal on the technobabble.
Yeah, just the concept of it. It's like the crew runs into a virus and has to solve the problem before everyone succumbs to the virus. I'm like, like you said before, I feel like that's something that the kind of thing that we saw a lot on the Next Generation. And so it just, and maybe that explains why I'm kind of fond of this episode. It's an early episode. It's got issues and such, but it has that feeling of like a Next Generation episode to me, which I like. So I have like a soft spot for this one.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't thinking about it exactly like that, but I mean, that is a good point. Like, except, I'm sure if it was like on Next Gen, it would have been like, they went down to a planet and got the virus or something like this. Yeah. But
it wouldn't have been a terrorist or whatever.
Yeah, this time it was Bajoran terrorists, because that's just what Deep Space Nine does up to this point. It was like, oh no, what caused this? Bajoran terrorists. So, all right.
There's also an interesting note about the dialogue that was written, which I was mentioning earlier. So this guy says that at first he just wrote it as gibberish, and then he realized that was a mistake. It can't be gibberish because the person's actually trying to say something. So he says, I had to say the lines out loud, what the person was actually saying, and then I'd write them down in parentheses and then come up with other words to put in that fit the same rhythm. Uh-huh. And so he's like, it was almost like writing poetry because I'm using a meter.
Huh. And yeah, I mean, well, they have to be saying words because Bashir explains this whole thing where it's like...
Yeah, it's like you got to disconnect and you connect with like a different word or whatever.
Yeah, like the wire in your brain that connects this thing with this word has just been rerouted to another word. So, well, I did feel like this episode does feel like it's kind of starting to hit that Deep Space Nine stride. Even with just some of the rhythm of kind of the establishing shots and the music and stuff. Like, I'm not 100% sure, but like the opening establishing shot of the station in this episode feels like they use it like 100 times throughout the series. Like, it felt really familiar. I was like, oh, this really feels like a Deep Space Nine episode right off the bat. And then some of the characters are starting to feel more like themselves. Like, Dr. Bashir isn't acting like a totally crazy person. You know, Quark and Odo Quark was always good at being Quark, but I feel like Quark is just like really hitting that Quarkness on all cylinders. Same with Odo.
Yeah, the wiki says that Armin Shimmerman, who plays Quark, himself says that this episode is where he feels like he really got the handle on Quark and started being like getting who Quark was.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I love the scene where he's trying to like extract payment from the guy in the infirmary, and he's just like, "You give me gold," and his like eyes are like really big.
I totally forgotten about that scene when watching it, and so it's just for half a moment. You, I guess, are supposed to think like Cisco does that Quark has come down with the virus, but almost instantly, I'm like, no, hold on. These words are making way too much sense to be the random aphasia of like O'Brien that we saw earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And Quark, it's a little weird that Quark doesn't get the virus just because of the Ferengi immune system.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much credit to give to that, or if it was just like, he just happened to be the last one who would have. But I mean, he's got other Ferengi on the station. We know at the very least Nog and Rom are both here, and neither of them shows up to help out.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed logically they should have been doing something helpful if Ferengi are immune. I mean, Ferengi do have like 4 lobe brains or something, right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
So maybe like their brains don't have those same wiring connections or something. Or maybe just Quark has a good immune system. Who knows?
Could be.
One minor thing is when O'Brien fully succumbs to the virus. Cisco gives all of his work to Dax. It's like, why is Dax now being given O'Brien's job? Like, is that how this works?
She's the science officer, you know. If you don't have an engineer, then that's your next best person to understand all that shit.
Yeah, luckily for her, like, she immediately comes down with the virus, so she doesn't have to, like...
Yep, no extra work. I think she was faking it just when she realized she was going to have to do double the work.
That thought had crossed my mind, because she starts going like, like it's not like everybody else when they just start talking and like, the nonsense starts coming out. It's like she hesitates, like she knows she's about to start talking nonsense.
Yeah, that's true, because the first couple times O'Brien does it, like, he doesn't recognize that anything is wrong. He says something and goes on about and then somebody else is like, wait a second, what?
Yeah. So I think Dax was faking the whole episode. That lazy Dax.
At that point, it would have been a real stretch, because I think she's the second person to come down with it. And so it's like, yeah, I'll pretend it was contagious.
Yeah. If nobody else came down with it, that would have been really awkward. So, we figure out what's going on with O'Brien, but what's going on with Dax? It's like,
I got better. What a coincidence.
Don't look too much into this.
That doctor has very little sympathy for a bunch of people who are in, like, horrible danger from a virus he helped with, because even after she beams him aboard and explains that, like, the entire station is infected, he's like, well, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, that doctor is not a very nice or helpful guy.
I feel like the repeating, like, because we haven't met that many Bajorans at this point, and I feel like most of the Bajorans we've met are kind of assholes.
Yeah, that's exactly. We need to meet more nice Kira-like Bajorans.
Even Kira, especially when we first meet her, is kind of an asshole.
Yeah, but you kind of like, you sympathize with her though.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, they explain what her deal is, and you see that she's actually a good person or whatever, and her position makes sense. But it's still like, okay, well, I mean, you're really rude.
Yeah, as opposed to, like, you know, the guy who just wants to blow everything up, or the, like, you know, the guy I think his job is he's the head administrator of the hospital. Yep. He's just like, hundreds of people have this virus. He's like, oh, what do I care? I really feel like, okay, like, does Bajor have some kind of medical licensing board? Like, or some kind of Hippocratic oath? Maybe medicine just works different on Bajor. I don't know. Well,
and, I mean, you have to wonder, they've been under the Cardassian occupation for however long, for 50 years or whatever. So definitely, you know, when this guy was born, it was either a recent, or it was about to happen, or it had already happened. Like, he didn't seem, if he was 50, he wasn't that much over 50. Yeah. I don't think he was even 50. So, okay. So where did he get his doctorate? I mean, were there still universities training doctors in the middle of the occupation while the Cardassians are, like, enslaving the populace? Because apparently he was a doctor and in an internment camp. So it just, you got to wonder, like, exactly how many hoops there are to jump through to become a doctor under those circumstances. I feel like not many.
Yeah, I mean, the whole history of the occupation just has to be really long and complicated, and there has to be just a ton of stuff we don't understand. Like, you know, how do you wind up in one of these internment camps? You know, was he sent there for being a separatist or an underground guy, or what? I mean, you have to assume, I mean, there's some kind of, like, you know, in occupied countries, you still, like, you don't just shut down every single institution. You just kind of, like, control everything from, you know, the high political levels. And you kind of, like, integrate, you know, your guys into everything. So, These are good questions.
I've never been an occupying force, so I don't know exactly how it works.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot that goes into it. But one thing I did want to mention is, okay, so last episode, we saw Odo transform into a chair.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, this just got me wondering, was there already a chair there? And then he moved the chair out of sight? Or did he just figure, I bet I could be a chair right there and nobody would notice?
Well, I thought about that in that episode because we were in that room before, and I don't feel like there was a chair there. But at the same time, you make a good point where if you walk into a room that you've been staying in for a while and there's a chair that wasn't there before, I feel like you notice that.
And then and this time he's a cart.
Yeah.
Which, okay, quick aside, how, even with Odo's, goo physiology, how does he manifest wheels? I guess he has, a little goo bearing, between the leg part and the wheel part of the cart. But the main thing is, what happened to Quark's cart? Did he, because, presumably Quark was okay, there's my cart, right where I left it.
Well, I guess Quark could have a bunch of carts for, if the restaurant's busy and people are carting out lots of things of food. But then you have to ask the question of, well, how did Odo become the cart that he knew Quark would pick?
Yeah. So I'm starting to wonder if, I want to be in, Odo's quarters sometime, and there's just, the chair that he, transformed into is in there, and, Odo's cart is in there, and he's just made it into a little, wet bar for himself.
Odo doesn't have quarters at the moment. He sleeps in a bucket behind his desk, we found out.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, I guess, it's not necessarily that he doesn't have quarters, but, yeah, he does, I guess, just feel fine, sleeping in goo form in a bucket behind his desk.
I guess that brings up another weird question, but it's when the chief of security is off duty once every 16 hours for however long I don't remember if he mentions how long he has to be gelatinous, but so is there a, backup security officer so that if there's a security emergency, someone is taking care of it? And if so, is that guy sitting at that desk while Odo is in a bucket right next to him? Because that's weird.
This is a good question. Maybe he just I don't know. I was going to say, maybe he just tries to sleep at night when nothing happens, but he slept through that murder. So I imagine, he must have a chief deputy or something, but I don't think we ever meet that guy, whoever he is.
Yeah.
Oh. Quark quotes an old Ferengi saying that, what is it? It's better to take than ask permission or something like that. So I'm guessing the rules of acquisition haven't been introduced yet.
Yeah, probably not.
Or he's just he just thinks that Odo won't understand the concept of the rules of acquisition. He would definitely have said, quoted the rule of acquisition number.
Right.
For that, if this was a later episode.
Never ask when you can take, is what he says.
Uh-huh. So, I don't know. Is that a rule of acquisition? Probably.
Rules of Let's look for the rules of acquisition.
Well, there's 1 million of them, so...
There's 200 and some odd of them, if I remember
correctly. Yeah, it's
correctly.
290 or 280.
It's listed on here as an unofficial rule.
Oh, okay. We assume it must be a rule. I don't think the Ferengi have any commerce-based sayings that aren't rules of acquisition.
Who knows? There could just be phrases that are that you hear a lot that aren't necessarily rules. Because I assume adding a rule may be a very a tough thing to get through whatever body governs that sort of thing. So
Well, apparently, isn't there an episode where, like, I forget, like, the Nagus just writes brand new rules of acquisition?
Yeah, he writes a whole new book of them.
Yeah, so apparently, I mean...
Yeah, I guess maybe. I mean, it could also have been him overstepping his authority at that point.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I still don't understand how the Ferengi government works, honestly.
Nah.
And I've seen, like, the whole show, so... Alright, so you want to give this episode a rating?
Yeah, let's do the rating thing. I'm gonna make... I'm torn on this one. I'm gonna go ahead and give this one a commander.
Ooh.
I like it.
Interesting. You gave the Kira episode 3/2, a commander also, right?
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
So would you rate this higher or lower than that?
I don't know. I feel like, well, and see, that's the thing about having the system that we set up, right? Where there's basically 4 or, maybe 6, if we count the half rankings, which I've totally used already. So, that's the risk you run, is that there's 20, however many episodes, or however many episodes are in the first season. And you can't, a lot of them are going to be right around the same things because there's only so many options. But
right.
I feel like probably I would rate that one a little bit higher than this one. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to give it not quite as high as you. I'm going to give it a lieutenant commander.
Okay.
Because the whole time I was thinking, like, this is just one of those episodes that I feel like, you just watch, like, kind of, like, vegged out on the couch. And, it holds your attention just enough to, like, distract you from the horrible boredom of your life. And, it's got some fun moments. But I personally didn't feel like it was, like, super standout.
Yeah. And,
okay. And for me, that would put this between the pilot and A Man Alone.
See, I will say, though, that I feel like we continue to surpass the first season of, like, The Next Generation with the quality of these episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, episode 4 of The Next Generation was Code of Honor, which is one of the most ridiculous and kind of racist episodes of the entire show. So I'm just like, we're just, the bar is raised here, and I appreciate that.
I don't even remember that episode.
That's the one where they go to the planet. They go to this planet, take like some vaccines or whatever, and it's like a black people planet, and they kidnap Lieutenant Yar to make her the wife of the leader of. It's just, it's a crappy episode.
Those first season episodes were. It was like, in a way, because now we're talking about Next Generation, but it's like, in a way, those early Next Gen episodes, it's like they're going for something, right? Like I felt like they're really going for a style with those early episodes, which kind of like faded away as the show went along.
Yeah,
but man, they tended to be pretty bad. Yeah, Deep Space Nine, I feel like they probably learned a lot from the mistakes of Next Gen.
Yeah.
Because I don't even know, like, how many writers carried over from Next Gen, or...
Well, I mean, because that show's still going at this point, so you can't take all the writers, but...
But like you said, like, this episode was apparently written originally for Next Gen, so...
Yeah. So, let's see if I can find something about that, but it's...
I mean, it's definitely still, like, the whole, like, Rick Berman and...
This is the first episode that Ira Stephen Bear has a writing credit on for Deep Space Nine, is one of the things that it said. But
oh, nice.
Yeah, I think they definitely have an advantage of it's because we got new characters and all this, but we're still in the same universe. So it's almost like you're continuing with the Next Generation, and you can continue to if not build off the characters we've already gotten to know, you build off, the species and some of the relationships that we've already got.
Like they're definitely massively benefiting from all the world building of like those 5 seasons of Next Gen. Like, not just with the Cardassians and the Bajorans and all that stuff, but just like, like little things like, what technology do we have, what's possible, what's not possible, and all that stuff. So it is definitely an advantage of just like starting a new show right in the middle of, like a spin-off show right in the middle of like your other show, if you could even think of this as like a spin-off.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of other shows that's happened on where you start a spinoff like right in the middle. And I know it has happened. I know like Stargate did it like twice. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, is there non-sci-fi examples of this? I feel like NCIS was a spinoff of JAG, right?
Yeah, yes, I think so. Although with shows like that, it's like JAG and NCIS are like real things.
Right. So it's just like, we have a police show. Here's another like aspect of the same real world. So it makes sense.
It's like it's like Law and Order SVU. It's like, I'm not really impressed by their ability to like spin off these shows.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like Law and Orders, there's a bunch of those. NCIS now, there's been a bunch of. So I guess maybe it's something that happens a lot.
In NCIS, Gary, Indiana.
Hey, NCIS New Orleans, I actually really enjoyed. That was a really fun show. I like Scott Bakula.
Was that the one with Scott Bakula was in that?
Oh, no. Am I saying the wrong person? Hold on. Let me see. Yeah, Scott Bakula. That's who it was. Sorry. I was like, am I thinking of the guy from like Sliders instead of the guy from Quantum Leap? But no, it's Scott Bakula.
Wow.
Yeah, he plays the main character on that one.
Huh. I've never seen an NCIS.
Oh, I love NCIS.
I watched CSI back in the day. Then they started going to too many cities.
Police type procedurals I don't love. Like, I'm not a big fan of like CSI and stuff, but there's like a level of comedy that if you put that in, then I'm like, okay, I'm on board with this. So if like a Psych or a Monk or something, I love those shows because they're procedurals, but they're fun. And so I feel like NCIS manages to hit that just enough of that for me.
Yeah, Psych, where if the number of murders that happened in Psych happened in real life in Santa Barbara, California, it would have like the nation's highest murder rate by far.
Oh, yeah. Good times.
But you're just like, oh, haha, look at this dead guy. So I've heard it both ways.
Now I want to go watch some Psych. Or some Elementary. That's another one that's, of course, that was like a Sherlock Holmes basis, and I love Sherlock Holmes, so.
Sure. I never finished Elementary. I felt like they were starting to get a little too weird with like...
It definitely got kind of weird at some points, but I remember when that show first came out, I was just like, they're making Watson a girl. They're going to go for like the sexual tension between them, and it's going to be... And then I thought Lucy Liu was fantastic, and I really loved like the way they handled the relationship between the two of them. So
they totally played that correctly. That was good. Johnny Lee Miller from Hackers.
I've never seen Hackers, but Johnny Lee Miller was great.
Yeah, if you want to be elite, you got to do a righteous hack. That movie is so insanely stupid. I just remember, okay, what's the guy's name? Fisher Stevens? Oh man,
that is a guy's name.
There's just like a scene where he like roller skates into... He's like the head of security for whoever Johnny Lee Miller and Angelina Jolie are trying to hack, and he like skateboards into the...
Okay.
Like when he goes to work, he skateboards into like the counter hacking room or whatever.
Oh, that guy was in Short Circuit.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
oh yeah. He's been in a lot of stuff. He was in Lost, and like he just shows up every once in a while. He's one of those guys.
He's in a couple of really good episodes of Numbers, where he plays a bad guy, like a really fun bad guy.
Oh yeah. He has there's a scene where he talks about like the most common passwords, and their password, like, I think he claims the number one most common password is God, which I can't imagine anybody ever using that as a password.
3-letter password. Well, yeah. I mean, you can't think that it's too ridiculous for a password when people are out there using passwords, so.
I mean, I kind of understand people using password. Maybe, like, it's God because it's like they're praying for God to let them into their account or something. But...
Oh, he's on Lost? Who does he play on Lost?
That's what I just said. He was one of the Fradies.
Okay.
He was the... He dies from the Desmond time-jumping disease.
He's on Columbo. Interesting.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, he's really young in Columbo, which makes sense. Okay, yeah, I remember that now. Sorry, we've gotten way off what we're doing.
Yeah, who knows if I leave any of this stuff in? It's like, am I lazy enough to just leave all this stuff in? Probably. I feel like it's on brand. So
okay, is there something else? Have we missed anything? We did the rating. What was supposed to happen after that?
Yeah, so we did the ratings. You did your rating, I did my rating.
Yeah.
I think we're done. I think that does it for us today. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. I'm Fletcher, about to say goodbye is Data.
Adios.
Have a wonderful day, and drop by anytime you're feeling homesick.